like to show you, it's kind of a bookmark that kids can keep with them as they're reading. And what I like about this, it shows them how to monitor their own comprehension by asking questions. And if they get stuck as they're reading, there are strategies that they can use on their own. How are you doing? Can they do certain things? You might even want to, after you introduce a reading strategy, ask them, okay, number one, I want you to really think about this because this goes with the reading strategy we're talking about. And then number two is, can they tell you what they're having problems with? Because most kids really struggle with that. They don't know why they don't get it. Usually it's, they don't understand where they're having the problems. And then below it, there are some fix-up strategies, most of which we have been practicing with the kids with strategy instruction, but also it's very specific so they can probably figure out, oh, this is where I'm having some problems. Do you think this is workable for the kids in 7th grade?
Yeah, I think this, like you say, I think this reinforces a lot of what we're doing. So, and I like the little handy format here as a bookmark. So I think it's.
You can even put it on cardstock or even laminate it so it's right by them. And I think it's something that I really, I'm hoping we could do more of, monitoring their own thinking skills. When you're getting stuck, what is it that you're having problems with and what can you do to get unstuck? Mm-hmm. A lot of the information that we got from Christovani.
Well, it gives them a lot of different strategies to try.
Right, so it isn't just one way that's all. Okay, so we'll make some copies of this and I'll send them your direction, okay? Okay, thank you.
Up to chapter 5. So how many pages do you think you need to read today?
Think about that, okay? I'm going to send you back because I need you to get caught up, okay? It's very important. And when you do the it says part, I want it right from the book. You're lifting it right out of the book so it helps you answer that question, okay? All right, on to it. I'd like to share with you another technique, reading strategy that you might use for a pre-reading activity, okay? I tried this with 4th and 5th graders, and what I found was that most of them really thought this was very useful for them, where others did not. And let me just explain why. Basically, it's called skim and scan. And what you want to do, it goes along with that strategy of determining importance, finding important words. So we ask kids to start at the bottom of a passage, and through each paragraph, can't find any paragraphs here. With each paragraph, they start at the bottom, and what they do is, with a partner, one person is looking for important words, and the other one is listening and writing them down. Okay? And we go through it backwards, and of course this is very high level. Their paragraphs are much shorter. We tell them probably take 2 or 3 words only. And that's really hard because the first time we did it, we learned from our mistakes. I had all the words practically underlined, you know? So we went back, we practiced it together over and over again, and now they're at the point where they can go backwards, they find the words, and then they look at their group of words and try to put together an idea of what this story or article is about. And that was helpful for a lot of the kids because I asked them on the back, tell me yes or no, was this helpful or why? Or if it wasn't, tell me why. And most of them said yes, because it really showed me what words were important, and I could think about them more before as I would just read it all together. So they have some words they keep in mind as they're reading, and then when they read it through again. They were, most of them said yes, it helped me because I found these important words. Others who said no, this did not help me at all because as I'm reading, I can find these important words already. And I thought that's a mark of a really good reader. And for those kids, this probably would be time-consuming and not very helpful. So what we decided with some of the kids is not to use this because they showed me they could do it, then we moved on with another strategy with those kids, okay? Most kids find it very helpful because it gets them thinking about what they're reading beforehand. And I thought that was a good strategy. Worked really well with science, social studies, those types of texts, especially when finding keywords or vocabulary when discussing with kids. But I like this idea. But is it going to be something that all kids will want to do, but we want to give them the exposure to it and practice, and then they can decide. Okay?
Makes sense.
Any questions?
No.
Okay. Use and give to the students. It helps them monitor their own comprehension. We probably haven't done a whole lot with this, but I like the ideas because most of these are the reading strategies that we're reinforcing, but it shows them how to use it on their own without constant teacher feedback. They need to practice this on their own. And when you introduce a strategy, you could say, okay, I would like you to look at number 2 for a while. As you're reading, think about this and how helpful was this for you. I thought maybe we could use these for bookmarks, like I said, but keep it handy also in the science and social study areas, okay? The first one is just check how are you doing, and then there are the strategies right there. You can state the problem, because most kids have difficulty saying, I don't know what's wrong, but I'm not understanding this, or in other words, they say, this is stupid, I don't like it, I don't want to do it. So they're having problems saying what they're having problems with, and this gets them a nice outline of what they can do on their own when they do get stuck. Try figuring out words, figure out confusing sentences and visualizing all of that, but it keeps them on track and something that I think we can easily use within our reading program.
Media in space. The stone.
I get the kids up there because I want to go.
Okay.
Comets in space.
You got one there?
After watching 8th graders perform Reader's Theater, these kindergarten students have shared reading with their 8th grade buddies.
Want to find another one? You want me to read it to you?
One for you and your partner. One for you and your partner. So the garbage and you're done.
Everybody get one? Did you get one? Yeah, share this with your friends.
And metacognition is kind of a cool thing. It's thinking about your own thinking. So how many of you actually think about your thinking? Well, let's think about a sport, for example. If you're practicing in a sport, how many of you are sort of analyzing your progress in the sport? What's a good example of analyzing your progress?
Like a baseball, your batting average.
Okay, so you're actually looking at numbers.
Yeah.
Well, when you get those numbers, what do you do afterwards?
I see, like, I look at them and, like, from game to game and see if I get better or worse.
Okay, so you look at the numbers, and then you're up there to bat, and here comes a pitcher, and what are you going to do next? Same thing?
Just what I normally do, try to hit the ball.
Okay, what if your batting average isn't where you like it?
Practice more.
Go back to Can you elaborate a little bit? Okay, you work harder, you try to do better, but
Stephanie Harvey suggests that half of what students read in school should be nonfiction. Teaching reading extends beyond the primary grades and beyond K-3 teachers. People develop strategies to improve reading proficiency well into adulthood.
But do you ever think, okay, I know Aaron's interested in maybe making a pro softball team someday, right?
That'd be sweet.
So, more leg into it?
It wouldn't be leg, it'd be more arm strength.
More arm strength? Okay, but, okay, things aren't happening, you're not quite booing them out there the way you want to, you're not getting your 380 feet. What are you gonna do to change that? Okay, let's try it. So you're already come up with some strategies maybe to fix it. Is there anything small you can do, minor adjustments?
Tweak your batting ball stuff.
Like some guys, they'll lift their leg up and wait for the ball. Like they use their leg power, so you might not want to wait for the ball as much.
Okay.
And then the way that he holds the bat, like off your shoulder, not far too back, not too far back.
So you're strategizing here a little bit, right, on how to improve. You can't just go, I gotta get better, I gotta improve, so I'm gonna improve. You have to go through the thoughts of how you're gonna improve, right? You have to analyze what you're doing already to know how to improve. Some pro sports people actually have people videotape them, and then they even use these little computer pixels, and they put at all their joints, and then they make a little stick person, and they watch the movement, and then they work on coaching points, like, okay, we can really change the way your arm sits or whatever, or the way your leg kicks out, the start of your swing, and then they go through and they work with that person. Well, how can I improve my hitting on the softball team? And so what we want to do with reading is a similar thing. We want to get inside our own heads and think, this is where I am. This is where I want to be. There's things about my reading, there's things about my learning that I can try to fix. There's things that I'm going to try to do better. How am I going to know? Tony, it's okay. Hold on. We can always cut, right? 2, this is important to think about. And this is a really important skill. When you don't get something, you have to know how to fix it. So yesterday we did something really cool. I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, did you learn quite a bit about protein synthesis with what we did yesterday? Yes? No?
Yeah,
A little bit?
kind of.
You don't have to say yes, but think about it. There's certain things you disconnected with. You're like, gosh, I think I get it, but I wasn't sure about that one part. That happens a lot, right? We had DNA in the nucleus, and we learned that the DNA, look, I taped it to the desk, it's not going anywhere, so we learned the DNA has to stay in the nucleus. We also had a ribosome over there, and we were pretending we were in a cell. So there were a couple of concrete things that happened, but making a messenger strand of RNA, moving a messenger strand of RNA to the ribosome, having transfer RNAs hauling amino acids around, sticking amino acids together to make proteins, did all of that make perfect sense when it was done, or were there holes in your knowledge? Pretty good. Okay, pretty good. If I was to zing a quiz at you right now and ask you what is the role of the messenger RNA, or how does messenger RNA translate to transfer RNA, those sorts of things, would you be able to articulate that? Okay. And if you started to, would you probably run into a couple of hitches, a couple of glitches, a couple of places where you didn't really know a part? And then what do you do when you get there? Now your batting average is only, you're only batting 200. You want to be batting 350. Okay, now what are you going to do to improve your batting average here? Do you know what to do? Or is that the point where we start exploring and thinking? Okay. Let's do that today, because we've got a test tomorrow. This will be kind of a good review. What we're going to do is we're going to go back through the process, but we're going to do it by exploring your text. What I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you explore 4 steps in protein synthesis in your own words. Remember we did that in your own words, in their own words thing? What I'll have everybody do is write out in your own words one part of the step, and then we're going to think, pair, share. So the thinking part's going to be writing out in your own words. And then you're going to pair with somebody else and see what they've written in their own words and see if you understand. And we're going to keep on pairing and sharing until everybody has a pretty good feel with what you know and what you don't know about protein synthesis. So here's what we're going to do. Okay, so think, pair, share. And you've already done this part, right? You've done this before with other things. And in your own words, we've done this, right? This is that little thing I kind of invented that one day, and in their own words. And now what we have to do is we have to fix things we don't understand. So I'm going to model an idea of thinking, okay? If you've got your textbook, go ahead and follow along here. In chapter 11, actually, we're going to take a step back because we skipped over chapter 11, protein synthesis, deliberately. We felt it was a little out of sequence. We understand that the rules of genetics. Now what we need to do is go to page 294. We learned that when you look in the mirror, you see proteins and protein activities. We learned that DNA, the letters of the DNA code, make up the genes, and the genes instruct the building of proteins, and the proteins do the work of the cell. We also then yesterday went through a step-by-step process to figure out how does DNA, the code of DNA, get transcribed into messenger RNA? How does messenger RNA float over to the ribosome? How does the amino acids that build the protein get pulled over to the site of the ribosome where they can get put into a big protein? And after a while, you know, you can see it, but if you try to put it into words, it's a little confusing, doesn't it? mRNA, tRNA, amino acids, proteins, there's a lot of vocabulary. So we have to figure out, we have to try to fix what do we know, what don't we know. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here. And you might not know the answers to these yet, so we're going to go through the text just for a little bit. But the first question, I am confused by what? Do you know what you're confused by? Yeah. Okay. So, when you put something in your own words, will you kind of know where you're confused?
Yeah.
So now you'll be thinking about your own thinking, won't you? It's called metacognition. I am confused because. Now you know what's confusing you. Now you're trying to think about why you're confused. That's more of this metacognition. Now you're actively coming up with strategies to go back to our analogy before, to improve your batting average, to improve your swing. I will try to do what? To understand what you don't know, what you're confused about. And then when we're done with this, we'll try to explain how our understanding has changed. Okay, so here's the topics. I think I've confused you. I've talked a circle around you here, but so we have to try to think, pair, share. But first, we're going to put something in our own words. What are we going to put in our own words? This is what we're going to put in our own words. Choose one. That's all we have time for today is choose one of these. DNA unzipping at the hydrogen bond. What analogy did we use yesterday? Remember? Is that a hydrogen bond? It is, isn't it? That works over and over. So, DNA unzipping at the hydrogen bond. You could use your text and your knowledge of yesterday's discussion to put that in your own words. Or transcription of DNA by mRNA. Does anybody remember the analogy yesterday?
Don't kill the messenger, is that it?
What's that?
Is it don't kill the messenger?
Yeah, don't kill the messenger. You got an important body of information, and if you're fighting a military campaign, you don't necessarily want to send the brains behind the strategy out to the middle of the battlefield. Right? You want to spend. Maybe you can come up with another analogy, or maybe you can come up with another way of describing the transcription of DNA by messenger RNA. Or you could do this one. Translation. Note there's some DNA highfalutin vocabulary here. Translation of let's say the code by tRNA. The assembly spelling there. Assembly of proteins. I'm just gonna leave it there, because if I write too much, I'm gonna give too much away about what you wanna put in your own words. But remember we kind of joined everybody up in the back of the room, elbow to elbow, when we were walking through our working model. So now, it's up to you to choose one of these and put it in your own words. Then, when you're done with that, explore what somebody else wrote about one of these. You got 4 choices to explore. What I'd like you to do is use the person that you're pairing with to help you do metacognition, to fix the things you don't understand. And also help the person that you're pairing with to fix the things they don't understand. This is where we're going to pair and share. And I guess we should say think, pair, share, think. Metacognition. Fix. Okay, think, pair, share, think, fix. Make sense? So let's go ahead, let's give that a try. We got about half.
Another way of including reading instruction in science and social studies curriculum is through thematic studies. Theme immersion can incorporate all types of skills as students gain understanding and knowledge about a science or social studies theme. One classroom, focusing on the environment, was able to use not only science time but reading and writing workshops, math, art, and library time in their study of the environment.
Any certain way, you can do this as a free write, you can do this as a creative sort of, it doesn't have to be all serious. You can have some real fun with this. So choose one of those, put it in your own words, however you want to. But make sure that you get the understanding there, in your own words, the parts, that you can reveal how something works. Transcription, translation, assembly of proteins. One of those, how does it work? Don't use the book yet. Don't use the book yet. Use what you learned yesterday. What did you learn yesterday?